Welcome to Equilibrium Echoes, the podcast where we delve into the transformative power of your inner world on your relationships. I'm your host, Alyssa Decker. Join me as we unlock the secrets of emotional equilibrium and dig deep into the tools and insights needed to foster healthier, more fulfilling relationships in ways that feel safe and authentic. Welcome back to Equilibrium Echoes. I'm your host, Alyssa Decker, and I am here today with Dr. Marcia Martin from the Heart Healing Foundation. I am so excited for this conversation today. We're going to be talking about something that I talk about a lot, but probably in a different way and from a different perspective than you're going to hear today. And that is about creating your internal landscape. What is that? What does it look like? We all do this. We all live with an internal landscape every single day, and yet we probably don't have the words to identify it or to express it or the skills to know how to change it. And so we're going to get into all of that today with Dr. Marcia Martin. Her website is thehearthealingfoundation.org. And Marcia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I am really excited for this conversation, but first I would love for you to tell us just a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got here where you are today.
Well, I help people recover from abuse and trauma, but my work is done in the energetic heart space because we've discovered that ticket into the subconscious is really located in the heart. So if we concentrate more on the heart than the head, you get faster and more long-lasting results. And I created the foundation really as an answer to the pandemic, where I saw that the need for trauma recovery was greater, but yet the resources, the financial resources, were shrinking. And so now we have pay what you can counseling, and I'm so delighted to be able to offer this so that you can get the help and support that you need and pay whatever it is that is comfortable for you, even if it's nothing.
I love that. And speaking of the pandemic, I mean, talk about trauma. For many of us, there was definitely some trauma that happened as a result of everything that went on around the pandemic, wasn't there?
Well, and it was such a huge shift. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, everyone, let's get used to staying indoors more. Maybe you need to begin isolating in your home or with your family, or, it was kind of like, uh-oh, okay, game's over. Get in your house and shut the door. It was so shocking. And I think that is really a good indicator of something that can be traumatic. Is it something that happens that is shocking, or it creates a level of experience that you were not used to? So I often have people say, well, I wasn't in a violent episode, so I don't understand why you would be saying that this was traumatic. Trauma is not necessarily violently related. It is,
Mhm.
did this shock you? Did it cause you to have an intense reaction in some way? And was that reaction unpleasant? If so, you could be holding on to the remnants of that experience and creating triggers that will affect you in ways that you'd rather they didn't as you move forward in your life. So we want to
Yes.
make sure that we let go of these past experiences so we're not driven by something from the past, but we can truly be present.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things were forced upon us in that
Yes.
time period that we had no say over. And with that came a very large dose of fear for many of us. And so
Oh, yes.
all of that plays into an experience being traumatic.
That
When we talked earlier about this podcast, one of the things that we talked about was how trauma and abuse are often connected, but they don't have to be. Like, there are so many times throughout our lives when we experience something traumatic and it has nothing to do with abuse or someone being directly abusive to us. It can be anything from a death to an accident to a, like a life event that we have no control over.
Is it unexpected? You know, is it something you feel you didn't choose? Okay, that can identify a traumatic episode. Abuse, as you said, can be something that is expected but is unpleasant. It may be unexpected the first time it happens, but if it goes on, if you stay in that pattern, then it may, oh, this is not what I wanted, but oh well, it is what it is. You begin finding ways to justify it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's very easy to go, well, this is just life. This happens to everyone. I just need to move
Yeah,
on.
I'm sure Mary is getting hit regularly as well, or Sam doesn't look happy, or we find ways to justify the experience that we're having when we don't think that there's a way out. There's no exit. So rather than sit in that despair of this is as good as it's going to get, we start making excuses to make it tolerable.
Mm, yeah. And that doesn't help with anything related
No,
to healing, does it?
no, no. And I think it's so important that we let everyone know you do deserve to have a life that's filled with joy. No matter what your life looks like right now, no matter where you are or what you may have done or said, you still deserve to have a life filled with joy. You might
Yes.
have to do something to get there. It may not come overnight, but you do deserve that, and it is worth pursuing.
Yes, absolutely. Even if the road to get there is not the most joyful way you would hope your life was going to go. But there is joy on the other side of
Yes.
doing this healing work.
And I think you'll find if you're in an abusive relationship or you've had traumatic experiences that keep coming back up, that's that PTSD feeling of all of a sudden I'm just out of control. I think you will find the minute that you make the choice to get help, to be supported, to overcome this, you're going to have that feeling of hope blooming, and that leads to joy. So even though hey, I might have a path of recovery before me, and that's normal and to be expected, but I'm feeling hope and joyful, and like there are possibilities that I haven't allowed myself to believe could be there.
Right. Yes, and maybe this experience doesn't have to define me or be part of my outlook for the rest of my life. Like I know a lot of times when we lose someone who's very dear to us, especially unexpectedly, it can feel like my life will never be the same without this person. And while that's true on some level, there are there is a healing process where the grief lessens and hope comes back and joy comes back. And I know I'm kind of harping on this a little bit, but I in my experience in my life, a lot of times I looked at things that were traumatic to me as this is just something that happens, right? Someone would die and I'd be like, everybody experiences this. It's just life. And so I never would have called that traumatic. I never would have thought that that was something that required me to do some healing work to move past that. I was just like, oh, it's just life. It just happens to everybody. I just got to get through it and move on.
Yeah,
And what I have
power
learned is
through.
that, yes, and what I have learned is that there's so much value in understanding that just because I need healing doesn't mean that anyone did anything wrong.
And
And
you didn't do
powering through
anything
doesn't,
wrong.
and I didn't do
You're not
anything
the
wrong. Right,
cause. They didn't
right,
die because you said something un- unnecessary or not nice before
right.
in the last conversation. I think yes, it's so important to recognize that even though Everyone may experience a loved one passing from their life, from the physical into the energetic. That doesn't mean that it's easy to process that or that you can process it without help. And by help, we're not talking about go talk to your other family members who are also grieving, because they don't have the skill set that is required to help move you forward from where you are. Get
Yeah.
professional help. Speak with somebody who can guide you, who can listen without judgment, and really give you perspective on what you may be saying or thinking.
Yes. That perspective is so, so huge. All right, so let's talk about this concept of into your internal landscape. I think there are probably some people who are listening who don't know what we mean by that. And everybody views this a little bit differently, but give us a little bit of a definition of what we're talking about when we say your internal landscape.
It's really the most important real estate you will ever own. It
Hmm.
is the place that is with you 24 hours a day, that has been completely constructed by you. Now, when I first understood that I was responsible for this whole mess that I had going on inside me, it was overwhelming, devastating, just repelling. I was like, oh no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I can't possibly be responsible for this horrible diatribe that I have going on. All the self deprecating thoughts and ways of beating myself up. Oh, this was gifted to me. It was put upon me. I never would have been responsible for this. So that first step in understanding your internal landscape is, yes, even though you may have been influenced by the people and the situations that you've been in, it's ultimately your choice what you decide to continue. You don't have to keep saying to yourself, oh, you're worthless. You can say to yourself, you are a magnificent being of great value, and I love and respect, honor, and accept you just as you are. You can choose a starting point that feels good, self talk that is honoring, and an internal landscape that is rich with support instead of a dry, barren desert that is trying to suck the life out of you. And the most interesting thing about that interior conversation and that internal place where you spend most of your time is this is generating how you show up in the world. So if you are busy telling yourself you're stupid, you then present yourself as one not capable to those around you. And the people around you don't know you in many cases. So if you show up, for example, to a job interview and your previous self conversation has been, oh, I'm really not capable of getting this job, but I really do need this job. I'm out of money, so I'm kind of desperate. So I really hope they look past all of my flaws and can see that I'll really work hard. You are sending vibrationally before you even step into the interview room this don't hire me because I don't know what I'm doing. As opposed to saying to yourself, let's say you don't have all the qualifications for the job. Let's say you will need to learn on the go or on the job. You can still say to yourself, I am great at learning. I am committed to doing a great job. Yes, this getting this job would be important to me. It would really feel great to have that paycheck. But I'm so proud of the way that I have been able to conduct myself in other jobs where I really shone because I am committed to the job and to being of service for whatever company hires me. Okay, Now, you still don't have those credentials that this job may be requiring, but you are presenting a completely different person. And the person hiring you may love people who want to learn their way of doing things. So they may be excited to train you. And if you can recognize that you're good at learning, then you're the ideal candidate for this job. So make sure that you're giving yourself a winning hand instead of kicking yourself in the behind and making it impossible to achieve your goal by setting yourself up for success instead of failure. I tell myself and tell all of my clients, you're perfect. You are absolutely perfect for this moment. You may not be perfect for tomorrow, and you may have not been perfect for yesterday. But in this moment, you are exactly where you need to be, doing whatever you need to do for your greatest growth. That can mean I am failing so hard it is embarrassing. However, I can look at this failure as the end of the road or as an opportunity. The failure could show to me, gosh, I really need to get learning about this particular topic if I want to pursue this. Or it could be showing me, you're really not good at that. Why don't you do the thing that you do well and let somebody else handle this? Or it could just show me, this is not the right direction for you. You're not happy doing this work. You don't really have interest. Why don't you go where you're aligned? So take every experience, gather what it has to share with you, and instead of condemning yourself, congratulate yourself and move from there.
Oh, there's so much to unpack there in what you just said. And you painted that picture so beautifully. And how, so I want to go back to the very beginning of what you said about not understanding at first that you were solely responsible for that internal conversation, that internal landscape, because that's critical. You can't change the landscape if you don't understand the role that you're playing in it and how responsible you are
Yes,
for it.
it's so painful to feel like I had done this to myself. So let's get out of that place. Let's stop that right there. If you knew better, you would have done better. So just begin from zero. Don't, all these years I've wasted. No, all of these years you have been learning what you
Mhm.
don't want. Someone
Yes.
else was influencing you. They were telling you things about yourself that may or may not have been true, or they were placing upon you generational truths that were really lies, and or cultural or societal norms that just don't work for you. Just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean that it's going to be ideal for you. So, all of this stuff was being placed upon you when you didn't know you could say no. So, you got to understand, you got a whole ball of knotted material that you're going to have to unpack. You're going to have to spend some time with yourself, being honest, saying, okay, what do I want to keep? Do I enjoy this way of being? If so, I will continue to be in this way. However, I learned as a young girl that I didn't have much value to offer the world. Do I like that way of looking at myself? Or is that something that I want to release? And whenever we release an idea or a way of being, we must replace it with something that feels good. And I prefer that you replace things with divine truth. Now, divine truth is simple. It always says you are loved and accepted unconditionally. So you can't say, all right, I replace the idea that I don't have any value with the idea that I have value sometimes. The divine just told you you are loved and accepted unconditionally, which means they see you as worthy every minute of every day, regardless of what you may be thinking, doing, or saying. Allow yourself to begin from the point of, "Ooh, I am perfect as I am." The divine see me as valuable. They see my worth. They see that I am something and someone. Where can I go from here? That is a much higher starting place than saying, well, I'm really worthless, but let me find something that I can like about myself. It is so hard to go, if everyone else is starting here and you're starting here, you've just made your race that much longer. Start here. Say to yourself and mean it, I am valuable. I am worthy. I am deserving. It's okay that you're not going to get everything right. You're learning. You can still be deserving and learning. You can still be valuable and learning. You can still be making mistakes and learning. So honor yourself by beginning here.
Okay, but there are some people listening who are thinking it's not that easy. Like, I
That's
can't
true.
go from these things that I've been telling myself for 40 or 50 years in some cases to suddenly believing that I am
Absolutely.
valuable. So,
Absolutely.
so what does that process look like? Like, how, your brain isn't going to immediately undo these decades long patterns of behavior. So let's get really practical for a second. What does that look like if someone's like, okay, maybe I do need to change this, but like I'm not going to suddenly wake up tomorrow feeling like I'm valuable and important.
Right. I don't
What does
believe
that
you.
process
Right.
look like?
I
Like
don't I
break it
don't
down for us a
believe
little.
this. I don't believe you. Now, as I
Right.
said, we work in the heart. So we do an energetic exchange. So when people come to me, they are broken, 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 broken. And so we have to find one thing that we want to let go of, one belief system. And so we'll take the energetics away from that old belief. For us, we go all the way back to the earliest memory. So let's say when you were 2, mom was having a really bad day and she told you, "You're a worthless piece of trash and I'm sorry I ever had you." Whoa, that's a lot to take in. That's going to be significantly impactful in a negative way. So maybe if you have been practicing this for 40 or 50 years, you can't move that big lump. In heart healing, we go right to it and change the energetics. So we would release that beginning point. But if you don't have heart healing to work with, begin with what is true for you. So, as I said, in heart healing, we would go address this issue. Mom was really not at her happiest and said some really nasty things that got stuck. So we would change the energetics and then replace it with divine truth. So you would just be able to relax and unravel all of that energy that you had devoted to this particular traumatic experience. But if that's not available to you, begin where you are with something that is true for you. So anything that is true, and it doesn't matter how insignificant you feel it to be. If you can't do anything except say, I like my smile, begin there. But you have to give something up. So make sure that you give up, I hate myself all the time. Let's just begin with that. Okay, well, I love my smile. So I love myself when I am smiling. So you've given up a huge negative and you've replaced it with something that is true for you. It must be true for you. If you can't make that big leap, which most of us cannot, then replace something that is large, a looming thought that really is kind of nebulous, doesn't have anything anchoring it down. Replace that big self condemning thought with one thing that is true for you all of the time, something that you can always honor about yourself. If you're intelligent, I love the fact that I am really smart. If you are kind, I love the fact that I'm kind. If you are consider yourself beautiful, I love that I'm beautiful. There's got to be something about you that you really can love and admire. If you say there isn't, I'm going to challenge you to digging down a little bit deeper and really getting to know who you are. Don't just broad brush it. There's nothing. This can't work. There is something. Honor yourself by doing the work to find it.
I love that. And so even that first step can be really challenging, right?
It
Like,
can
because
be.
it's a
So here's a,
process of
he,
retraining yourself to speak differently to yourself.
And here's another way to approach that. And this is one I work with the energetic realm. And so they're always gifting me these little ideas that are just wonderful. So they have a technique called rip it, write it, and burn it. So get a piece of notebook paper and fold it long ways, so a hot dog fold, so that it opens up. And now you have two columns. On one column, and it doesn't matter which is which, just one column, write down all of your attributes, everything you love about yourself. Be honest and dig deep. Nobody's going to see this but you, so it's not bragging if you write down everything you secretly admire about yourself. Now, on the other column, you're going to write down all of the ways in which you don't measure up. Now, the two columns don't necessarily have to be equal in length. Your what I love about me could be considerably shorter than what I absolutely find abhorrent about myself. It doesn't matter. Just get those two columns down and be honest. No trying to hide, well, I shouldn't talk well about myself. Yes, you should. And they needs to be on paper in a list that is easy for you to see. When you're finished, rip your paper in half so that you now have two separate columns. Put that column, everything I dislike about myself, put that over to the side. Take your I love me column and make copies of it. Make as many copies as you need. These copies are going to remind you of your greatness, of your how amazing you are. So one goes in your purse or your pocket, one goes on your mirror in your bathroom, one goes on the computer monitor, one goes on the refrigerator, one goes in the car, one goes with you everywhere, and commit to reading that list. Read it again and again and again. Read it out loud when you wake up in the morning. Read it out loud before you go to sleep. Get used to seeing yourself as valuable.
Yes, such a process.
Practice and practice and practice. Now, when they told me this, I was like, okay, that sounds really good. Now, remember, I was very lost in my self-deprecating talk. There was nothing nice that I said to myself from morning till night. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I can do that. And then I immediately said, but I have this list that I really need to concentrate on. What about that? It's sitting over there. And they said, oh, yeah. Why don't you just rip it up? Like, what? He said, well, it's valueless. None of those things are you. They're just what you've told yourself and what you've practiced. As soon as you practice a new way of being, you'll become that. I'm like, but I'm still attached to that. They said, yeah, 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 we get it. Rip it, and you know what? Burn it. So there's no way you can go back to it. It will cease to be. So if you're having a real struggle, write this list out, make it specific, then honor yourself by really reviewing those positive qualities that are you and destroying the negative. And I wrote it, ripped it, burnt it, and then went outside and made sure the ash scattered so that there was just no way that I could claim ownership over these old qualities. I needed to be just so complete in my destruction of this part of me that I disliked because it had owned me for so many years. And we must understand that what you practice has ownership over you, but you can change alliances. You're in charge. You're the creator. You are the one that decides. So, doesn't feel good to only talk about you as a less than subhuman being, but that is you practicing what you don't like. Get rid of that and begin practicing what you do like about you so you can feel honored.
And it doesn't always feel good to start practicing this immediately either,
Oh, it's going
because
to
it's
feel I am such a fake. Oh, I'm such a fraud. Nobody's going to believe this. That is all part of the process. You
right.
just keep going. Read down your list. Read down your list. You only wrote the truth. You only wrote things that make you feel good about yourself. And as you go on and you start really stepping into your fullness, you will discover more things about yourself to love, more things that you wouldn't acknowledge previously. But no, don't expect it to be like a change of clothes. It's going to be a whole new life. So
Mm-hmm.
keep going, even though there's a part of, oh, this is so fake. It's never going to work. It's so stupid. I can't do this. Recognize that that part of you no longer exists. If you have to make a new list of negatives, when they start coming up. I'm a fake. This is stupid. This won't ever work. And rip that list up and burn it and let the ashes get taken away by the wind. If you need to keep ripping up the negatives so that you can replace them with positives, you can do that too. What you want to do is create room. If you are stuffed full of reasons why you are worthless, you must release that so you can accept and claim ownership of the reasons why you are worthy.
Mm. So we start doing this, right? We start working to change the landscape. They change the internal narrative. And we have our list. We're starting to believe some positive things. How does that start to change our lives? Like, how does this start to show up? And how do we know, like, okay, we're actually making some progress in this?
Excellent question. First of all, let's remember that it's not going to be woo straight to the moon. Oh, everything is so wonderful. I don't even think it would be good if it did work that way. We need to get used to our new way of being. We need to practice. We need to see what is working and what isn't working. So your progress is going to be crazy all of the time, and that's never going to change. There are going to be days where you just, oh man, I am owning this. And there are going to be other days where I am such a fraud. None of this feels right. And, I just feel like giving up. Honor all of it, but notice what's really interesting is you will receive outer confirmation of your internal work. Don't just say, it's okay. I don't ever have to have any kind of validation. I'll just tell myself, and that's good enough. You deserve more. So ask for, be on the lookout out, and get excited about external confirmation. And so, what does that look like? Well, you start attracting more helpful people. You start attracting better relationships. You start noticing that things begin happening for you more synchronistically. It's just, look at that. Isn't that amazing how that just worked out? You start showing up differently, and then the world responds to the way that you are showing up. So, as you hold yourself as a person that deserves, the world starts bringing you your desires. If this is not happening, you have to really take a look at what conversations you're holding with yourself. You may still be having the majority of your conversation, yeah, you're just a jerk. Nothing is ever going to work out for you. You need to do some deep work. That's not acceptable. You must stop having that conversation. Either go back to write it, rip it, and burn it. But honestly, if you're not making any progress, reach out for help. You
Yeah.
need someone outside of yourself to help you see who you are and what you can be, and the ways in which you're holding yourself from getting to that goal. So, if you're not seeing any progress, if the outer world is not honoring you by things beginning to work out for you. And it's not going to be giant leaps, it's going to be almost infinitesimal little things happening until you've got momentum. But if you don't see anything, if things start to get worse, don't try to do this by yourself. This is you crying out for support. Get a hold of somebody that can help you overcome this. Not a friend, a professional. A
Yes.
friend might love you, but they may not be able to support you in the way that you need. So ask for
Right.
professional support.
Yes, you took so many words right out of my mouth. I tell people all the time when it comes to conflict coaching, which is what I do. Like, women come to me consistently because they're looking for a strategy to change their relationships. And what always happens that they are not expecting is that the conversation shifts into them working on themselves and doing this exact kind of work that we're talking about. And that will always, 100% of the time, change their relationship. Now, it might not change their relationship the way they're hoping it will, and it may not
Yes.
change his behavior or that other person's behavior, but it will change the relationship. Guaranteed, because it changes how you show up. It changes the words that are coming out of your mouth. It changes the dynamic in so many ways. Like, this is such a powerful concept. And some of us, like me years ago, have a tendency to really write this off and be like, that's just woo woo stuff, right?
Yeah, it can't work, it won't work.
Like, how
You
on earth is me doing this work going to change how my partner is treating me, right? Well, it won't necessarily. It might, because it changes how you show up. But what it really changes is your response to it and how you internalize that, and how you um, how you interact in that relationship, and the choices that you're making about whether to stay in that relationship or not, and all, like, so many things that are within your power that we tend to think are not. within our power just because we can't change the words coming out of that other person's mouth, right? And it's so
And it's not
powerful
about
and
them. You
it's
know,
not. Right.
it's not about them. It's about you feeling good about you. And then you recognize, huh, I have a choice. I
Right.
can either stay with this person who may be abusive and decide that that is the kind of relationship that I want to encourage, or I can move in a different direction. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, I have a choice. I'm not stuck. I'm not locked in. I'm not believing that this is as good as it's going to get. I can always choose to make things even better.
Yes.
I may not be able to make my existing relationship better because the partner that I have has decided they don't want to grow, but I can make me better.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And that is, when you are in a situation where you feel really disempowered and you feel like you don't have a choice, it goes back to this internal landscape. And that's what I want people to realize and really take from this conversation is we get in these places where we feel like we don't have a choice because we're so focused on the external circumstances. And
And we've
in
been trained, often from birth, to expect that this treatment is okay. So
mhm,
there's so much that needs to be addressed so that you can confidently and powerfully make proactive choices. So please don't beat yourself up. Oh, I'm so stupid because I am allowing someone to treat me badly. No, let's look at the training that you received. What was your earliest pattern that taught you this is the best you can expect? So, this is why I'm always saying reach out for professional support, because you can't go to somebody that has the same dynamic that you do and expect them to be able to lead you out of a dysfunctional pattern. You
so
got to
true.
go to somebody that can say, "Excuse me? He wait, wait a minute. That's not acceptable.
Right.
They can't treat you that way or speak to you that way or expect that from you unless you are in agreement with that. And let's look at why you may agree that it's okay to hit you on Sunday. Is
Mhm.
that what you grew up experiencing or witnessing? If so, let's go look at that and see whether you really want that. Now, if you really want to be hit on Sunday, nobody's going to stop you. That is still your choice. That's the thing that we need to understand. Nobody can take choice away from you unless you say to them, "Here, I don't want to choose for myself. I'm
Right.
giving this power to you.
Yes.
You are the most powerful person in your life."
Yes. And yes, you always have a choice, even if it feels like a choice between two really crappy options. We have to stop disempowering ourselves by giving away our choice and our power to choose. Because, like you said,
Please.
that's that's where it all starts, is recognizing that we do have that power.
The most powerful person in your life is not your abuser. It is not that person in authority. It's not your boss. It's not whomever you have assigned that role to. It is you.
Absolutely. 100%. All right. So, Dr. Marcia, tell us how people can find you, your foundation, how they can connect with you, and more about what resources that you offer to people who are listening to this going, okay, I need some more of that. And I need some of that help.
Well, please join us on our website. It is thehearthealingfoundation.org. And just the website itself is filled with resources. I am really committed to educating others about what is possible and how you can use spirituality in your everyday life. I want it to be practical. So there are videos, blogs, podcasts that you can review. There is so much material that you can absorb for free. Or you can join us in either one on one or group coaching. Or the other option is just join the community and do a self help. So you'll have access to all of the techniques without the coaching, without the support, without the counseling. And it's whatever fits your budget. If you need the counseling support and you're unable to pay for it, you come in through the foundation side and we just take you where you are. I call it moving you from victim to victorious. The goal is to heal your heart so your life will be transformed. And really, when your heart is overflowing with love, joy, and peace, your life must reflect that. So come as you are, where you are, and give what you can. Obviously, if you have plenty, we're going to encourage you to give more so that you can help someone that doesn't have the means to pay. And if you desire one on one counseling, please understand that is available, but you will pay the set fee. Group counseling is on a sliding scale, but the one on one counseling is not. However, all are welcome. No one is turned away. I do spend time with you prior to assigning you to a group, so I know who you are and kind of what you have experienced, so I can understand which group would be most supportive because personalities don't always mesh well. So you will spend a little bit of time with me prior, and then you come into the group and just you learn to work with the energetic realm, get all these tools and techniques that will support you throughout your life.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the work that you are doing at the Heart Healing Foundation. Go check out Dr. Marcia's website, thehearthealingfoundation.org. All of her links will be in the podcast notes. And even if you're just kind of listening to this conversation and not quite sure where to start or what this could look like for you, go visit her website. Check out all those free resources. Thank you so much for being here with us and having this conversation today.
Thanks so much. And just honor yourself by, if you never start, things can never change. So
Yes.
just get curious, poke around, take what you like, leave the rest. And at some point, if you feel like you need more, we'll be here to support you.
Excellent. Great advice. All right. Come back next time for another episode of Equilibrium Echoes, and I'll see you then. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Equilibrium Echoes. If you would like to learn more about the podcast, visit www.coachingwithalyssa.com/podcast. And while you're there, book your free consultation and download the preview of my new book, Marriage is Hard and Other Lies I Believed. I'll see you in the next episode.